Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Layla and today I'm going to give you all a reading wrap up from the books that I read in May of 2024. I think this might be the last reading wrap up video I do. I enjoy making these, but they just don't do well on my channel. And I think I'm going to start doing short form content of the books that I read instead. So that's going to be on, that's going to be on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts, because I think it'll be easier for me to give a review right after reading a book or like soon after reading a book. I don't want to give up talking about books, but filming long form content about books is just a little bit more time consuming, and these videos just don't perform well on my channel. So it's like, as of right now, I'm really supposed to be focusing on my finance content, and this is just like fun for me to do. And I don't want to stop talking about books, don't get me wrong. So anyways, let's get into the books that I read in June. I read a total of 5, and I feel like that's pretty impressive considering the size of one of these babies. May was my first month of self-employment, so I only had worked my full-time job for the first 3 days of May, and then I really took a lot of time to rest throughout the month, and that meant a lot of reading too. So that's really why I feel like in June it kind of slowed down a bit, but that's okay. So the first book that I finished, which I did start in April, was A Court of Wings and Ruin. This took me some time to get through. This is the third book in the ACOTAR series. I don't really know what to rate these, to be honest. I think these are definitely overhyped, and that's okay. I understand why people like these. I think what I'm noticing with these is I really enjoy being in the world, and I don't really notice that until after. It's like as I'm reading it, I tend to get bored. Sometimes I'll lose focus aside from the parts where there's a lot going on. I do really enjoy the relationships in this book. I enjoy the scenes where there's action, like war going on and stuff, but the in-between to me just does not capture my attention, and that's why I don't understand why people give these like a 5-star, because a 5-star for me is something where it just is captivating the whole entire time, and I don't want to put it down. It's something I'm like looking forward to every second of the day, but this is just not it for me. So yes, it's good, and yes, I do miss the world when I'm done with the book, but as for a rating, I think this one is gonna get a 3.5. I suppose. I struggle with rating these, but this one was super long and definitely had a lot of boring parts, so maybe this would be like a 3.25, to be honest. By the time I was like halfway through it, I wanted to be done with it, you know? And the end is when it was more interesting, the war, that portion. Now, I didn't read this book next, it was toward the end of the month, but I did also read A Court of Frost and Starlight, which is the 4th book in the ACOTAR series, and this one is basically unnecessary, but I actually liked this one. So during this one, it's definitely kind of just chill. They are celebrating like the winter solstice and also Farah's birthday. This is Farah's the main character. This was much easier to get through because it's obviously a lot smaller. I guess this one still is going to get like a 3.5 for me. I thought it was nice because it was just kind of cozy. I feel like we got to know the characters a little bit deeper and just see their softer side, which was nice. This one did start getting into more of the spicier scenes, or at least one part of it was very, it was quite detailed, and I'm really not sure how I feel about that, because they are fairies at the end of the day, and that to me is like, this is weird, you know? And from my understanding, the final book in the ACOTAR series, which is super long, I'm gonna try to finish that in June, or at least get started. From my understanding, that's like the spiciest book of hers in general, so I'm not really looking forward to that. So we'll see how I like it. But I actually enjoyed this one quite a bit. It was a nice little cozy fantasy. This was a cozier book than the other ones. The other ones had a lot more action. And as I was saying, I do enjoy being in the world, but nothing absolutely riveting about these books to me. I read 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. This one gets like a 2.75 from me, maybe a 3. It wasn't that good. I was so disappointed. I was expecting this to be like jaw-dropping, shocking. I had watched other people reading this book. Like, they talked about it in their videos, or like while they were reading it, they were filming themselves, and I saw them reacting, and they were dropping their jaws, and I did not have that reaction. Like, to me, what happened in this was not very exciting. And y'all know I love Holly Jackson. She wrote one of my favorite books, which is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I love that trilogy, even if it got a little chaotic toward the end. And I was expecting a bit more from this. And there are 6 people going, it's like a spring break trip. They're taking an RV, and really we're focusing on, what's her name? I was about to say Pip, but Pip is from Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Okay, her name is Red. And if I recall correctly, we're in Red's head for the bulk of the time, but it's also, I think this is also kind of just documenting, like explaining the scene, basically, like, then Oliver said blah blah blah, but it's also from Red's point of view. I can't remember if it switches back and forth, but you do get a breakdown of every hour, so this is really only taking place over like an 8-hour time span. And what ends up happening is this RV gets stuck, and some scary things start happening, and I don't want to give it away beyond that, really, but basically we're just trying to figure out who is holding the secret. And to me, that secret just wasn't secretive enough, you know? It was okay. I think at the beginning it was a little bit slow. It just took some time to get to any sort of fun parts. There were definitely parts that were scary because they were like actively being shot at with a gun. And I did want to know what the secret was, what was going to happen, who the culprit was, that sort of thing. But it wasn't anything that I just need a twist at the end that is shocking, and I didn't have that shock factor. I still think this is pretty good. Overall, I would say it's like a good palate cleanser if you're in between like heavier books or in between fantasy books, and definitely better for young adults. If a young adult wants to get into any sort of thriller or mystery, this could be a fun one. Not as good as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, though, that's for sure. I then read Pack Up the Moon by Kristen Higgins, and I've heard some mixed reviews on this one, I suppose. And this one follows, I don't remember their names. So Joshua and Lauren are the perfect couple, newly married, they're wildly in love, each on a successful blah blah blah. Then Lauren is diagnosed with a terminal illness. Yes, early on in the book that you know that she is dead. And what ends up happening is she has these letters set up, the woman who died, she wrote these letters to her husband after she dies, and she asked her best friend to give these letters to her husband every single month. And sometimes he gets extra letters. So it's basically he's getting these letters, he's reading them, it's kind of just going through his life after the death of his wife, and he's obviously having a hard time. And then in these letters, she's basically having him do something each time, like something that would be tough for him to do or challenging, scary, that sort of thing. And because of those things that she's asking him to do, it kind of changes his life. Like each little thing is shaping his life for after her death. And I don't know, this book wasn't that good to me. I think as a rating, I feel so bad giving these bad ratings this month, but it just kind of was boring. It didn't keep my attention. So I'm going to give it a 2.75, maybe a 3. I will say that at the end, there's a chapter that explains the last day that she was alive, and I was a mess. That was really, I did tear up at the beginning of this because I'm somebody who's very sensitive to like a significant other passing. I think that is just, that's definitely makes me really emotional because that is just so devastating and so sad to me because I would not want to be in that situation. Like, I just think of I don't even want to think about it. But I was already tearing up at the beginning of the book, just him explaining and going through the grieving process and stuff. But then the in-between was quite boring and a little bit tough to get through. I think the storyline was okay overall. But yes, the end when they explained her last day, sobbing, like, could not. But then after that, I was like, oh, okay, I'm good. Yeah, so you probably will cry in this book, but it's not going to be like the entire time. And overall, it's not a book that I would read again, but not the worst thing ever either. The last book that I read was The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I read Riley Sager for the first time back in, I think it was March or April. I do really like his writing, and I'm waiting for like a really, really good book of his because I feel like he has a lot of potential, but this one was still nothing groundbreaking to me. I think this one gets like a 3.5 out of 5, maybe a 3.75. I don't know. It was good. I liked the twist at the end. I thought it was fun and definitely a smart idea where he ended up going with this. So this follows, I can't remember names. I read these and then just move on. I know the main character is Lenora. Okay, let me read you the little song that they repeat throughout this. So at 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope, stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. It wasn't me, Lenora said, but she's the only one not dead. So yes, Lenora is at this house on this cliff, and she is the only one alive after she apparently killed her family many years ago. So Lenora in this book, like throughout the current time, she's like 70 something and bound to a wheelchair, and she's in this house, so she needs a caregiver. But back in the day, she was found to be the only one alive, and her mom, her dad, and her sister were dead. And then Kit, who is a caregiver, she had recently experienced some loss. I don't want to give that away. It will explain what she goes through. But then she becomes the caregiver of Lenora and has to go and stay here. She is living there so she can take care of Lenora, who is again wheelchair bound. And Lenora has this typewriter, and she can't move anything except for like her left hand. So that's how she types, and she wants to tell her story to this caretaker. So that's what we're kind of going down. You get this, it switches between present time and her typing this letter, and you're like reading the past of what had actually happened, and it breaks down what actually happened, and the caretaker gets to figure out what is the truth. There are quite a few characters in this, and he makes it so that you are, even in it, like the caretaker is trying to figure out who did certain things. So she's like, it could be this person because of this, that was their intention, and this is why they would want to do that, blah, blah, blah. And I think that was fun because it's like, oh, maybe she's right. That's what I would think too. But there is a twist at the end that is quite satisfying and fun. I did finish this one pretty quickly. I think his writing is very nice. Like, it is just so easy to get through. I'm able to visualize everything, and it's just very clean and simple is how I would describe it. So I like his writing. I will continue to read his books. The book that I read before this one was Home Before Dark, and I don't know if y'all remember when I talked about it, but I was saying like, why did he name it that? And this one's okay. The only one left, that makes sense because she was the only one left alive of her family. But I saw that, I think it was like a German version or something, but it was called Hope's End, and I think that is a much better title for it. I don't know if it was something lost in translation, but it makes more sense for it to be Hope's End. And if you've read this book, let me know what y'all think. But it had the same cover, but it said Hope's End, which is what this place is called anyway. But it's also a good way to call the book because you'll find out what happens. I do like this cover though. Like, I think it's beautiful. One that eventually I will probably have facing out or something on my bookshelf because I think it just looks really cool. That's everything that I read in May. That was a very strong month, if you ask me. I read so much. And yes, I did give them lower ratings, but I still enjoyed all of the books. Whenever I read reviews on Goodreads and people are just like bashing what is in the book and bashing the author, I don't understand that. Like, it's okay for you not to like a book, but it's also okay for people to like the book. You know, when people say like really negative things about people who like the book, I just don't get that. Like, I'm never gonna say that. It's okay if you like a book that I don't like. I may not understand it, but that's the beauty of reading and book opinions in general. Like, everybody's is so different. I can love a book and then somebody can hate it, and that's crazy. So just because I rated these kind of low, like none of these were above 4 stars to me, but I still did enjoy reading all of them. But anyways, comment down below what y'all are reading. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I will be doing short form content for my book reviews going forward. So that is going to be me on TikTok, which is Living Like Layla with 2 A's at the end. And then I should be getting them up on YouTube Shorts as well, but not too sure about that because I'm limited to 60 seconds on YouTube Shorts. But we'll see. I'll keep y'all posted. Thank y'all so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.